down and out, riddled with doubt, had nowhere to go. Everything's moving so slow, the time's moving too fast. I hope this feeling don't last. Well, I've been away from myself too long. My body is aching from all my wrongs. And now that I know I'm not that strong, I'll keep slipping onto you. I'll keep slipping until my time is through. I'll keep slipping onto you, onto you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter, and that naked all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter, and that shit all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got sugar, baby's got corrosion now, baby's got it.
Yes, baby does have got it. Got it. Sort of. I don't know where she has it, but she's got it somewhere. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, the last day of September. That means tomorrow begins 31 days of Rocktober. And you know what that means. It means fun and pumpkin spice and lasers and all kinds of fun stuff. We're still working on the laser part. Good morning, everybody. We got Ghost Start over on the Magic Rumble. Good to see you, bud. Kieran over there on YouTube. Hello. Good to see you, my friend. Laney P in the chat. Also, Laney's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. We're going to be talking about our premiere episode of The Undercurrent. Starts tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time. I usually say specific, but I'm trying to be a little bit more highbrow with that show. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show Intergalactic, another dimension, and Steve G, good to see all of you. Folks, you know I love money. You know, I just I don't use creams or salves. I use $100 bills and rub them all over myself. So in order to finance that lifestyle, I have to sell this delicious in air quotes, Desperation Blend Extra Dark Roast Ground Coffee, raised by a family of fentanyl cooks in an RV in the New Mexico desert. This specifically nauseous beverage will not only cleanse your colon, it will place it in the witness protection program. Its demonic aura and a touch of pumpkin spice for the holidays will have you begging for a young priest and an old priest in no time. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. Do you consider money to be an unborn twin that needs to be surgically removed? You ever thought to yourself, why should I drink delicious coffee when I can survive a witch's brew of DNA-altering chemicals that are presumably banned by the Geneva Convention? Well, grab a bag of Desperation. And apparently Desperation is pretty popular these days. Desperation Blend, extra dark roast ground coffee, found online and wherever those goddamn awful circus peanuts candies are sold. And remember, use promo code GRIFTER to pay an additional 20%, because that's how the grift works. CBC voter, what's up? Good to see you, buddy. Good morning to you. Happy Tuesday to you. Now, as promised, we're going to hit up our buddy Laney P, if I can get this to work, please. Yay, we're on the magic picture box there, Laney. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, Uncle Warren. How are you doing?
I'm still old. You know, I can't change that. Trying to, get the fountain of youth going on, but, I can't even get a trickle at this point. The trickle of youth, much less a whole fountain. So yeah, as I was telling the kids, we got our big show tomorrow, October 1st at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time. I said it again. Fuck it. I don't care. And we got some good stories to talk about. What do you got going on for tomorrow?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to mention to folks, I've heard from, if some of you may have seen on my social media, my brother died unexpectedly on Sunday. And this was, obviously been a very difficult time for my family. And I want to let everybody know that the show is going on. We are here to serve you because that's what news is about, is serving the public. And we're going to be here. Forgive me if the show is a little shorter tomorrow than I expected. Maybe not as high energy, but I can tell you right now, everybody's support means a lot to me, and the work, this work means a lot to me. Many of you came out for us on Sunday, as a matter of fact, when Warren and I were testing our setup to help us and give us feedback, and I want to thank you all for that. Thank you all so much. Number two, we got some really great stories for you this week. We are going to be talking about those Tylenol poppin' mamas and why maybe that isn't quite the TikTok trend everybody seems to be claiming that it is. We're also going to be talking about some well-intended initiatives in New York and elsewhere to help to prevent evictions, but sometimes these initiatives actually will backfire and will make it harder for people to find housing. So we're going to talk a bit about that. And we're also going to talk about this so-called trend in skills-based hiring. And that is this trend where CEOs are saying, well, we're looking for folks with skills, not degrees. But it turns out that the CEO of a major organization has just admitted that his own hiring managers are disobeying this, or not honoring this, and are actually seeking out college graduates regardless of company policy. So we're going to have some good stories tomorrow, Uncle Warren.
Yeah, and the New York story is particularly interesting to me because I lived there for 15 years, and during the pandemic, yes, that was a major issue. I knew there were smaller landlords who were having trouble with it, but the bigger ones were screwing people over left and right, because of greed, right? Yeah. Because that was the thing. It seems like that's what humanity does this in this day and age, where we take advantage of situations, even if they're just horrible situations like that. So, but the goodwill thing too is interesting too. Because they were catering to college students, right? Is that what
the idea behind this is? You've been hearing this. It's been a kind of a buzzword in the area of business now that, instead of requiring people to have degrees, academic degrees, we're going to hire based on skills. Mm-hmm. I think it's a kind of a way to address the problem of people having to take out student loans, which are very difficult to discharge in bankruptcy, to finance educations that weren't needed for similar positions, a few decades ago. And many people have said to people who have taken out student loans, well, you shouldn't have taken out the loans. The person says, well, if I didn't take out the loans, I couldn't get the job. I couldn't get a job. And I think that there's been this buzzword, oh, we're going to start hiring people based on skills rather than education. But what may be happening is that hiring managers are quietly ignoring these directives or these buzzwords or what the CEO is saying publicly. The hiring managers are doing something different. So that's
Lainey, can you put your microphone closer to you?
I'm sorry about that. I'm at home on my own home rig. But what is happening is that CEOs are saying one thing. Hiring managers on the ground are doing something very different.
You look like you got a CB in your hand there. Breaker, 1-9. We got a bear in the air.
C.W. McCall, he was an ad man.
Let them truckers roll, 10-4. All right, Lainey. Yeah, rubber duck. Was it the truck with the dynamite?
Oh, yeah, the suicide jockey.
The suicide jockey, yeah.
And the four long-haired Friends of Jesus in a chartreuse microbus.
In the chartreuse microbus. It's a very specific color, indeed. Well, thanks, Lainey. I will see you tomorrow for the Undercurrent. That's our debut episode tomorrow. Like I said, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube and Rumble. It's going to be on this channel, but it's also going to be on the Undercurrent channel too, which is the Undercurrent for you. The number 4, YOU. In your local YouTubes there. We'll be on, we have our own Rumble channel too, so we'll be on there.
We'll be on my Facebook. If you're following me on Facebook, we'll probably be on my Instagram. We have a link tree.
And we have a link tree, and we'll be on my Facebook too. So we're going to be on a lot of places. For this show. So if you're like, well, I don't like YouTube or I don't like Rumble, well, you have options. So we're here to serve up those options for you too. Okay, Lainey, thanks a lot. I will see you tomorrow.
All right, friend. Take care.
All right, see ya.
Bye-bye.
All right, Lainey P in the house. Let me get out of this. I don't want to. No. Stop it. You're the devil. Does this work? Okay, good. All right, yeah. So tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern is when we start. It's going to be fun. And I'm looking forward to a lot of news you can use. And I think that's what we need. Information that you can actually do something with to improve your life or maybe the lives of others or both, And that's what it's all about. All right, we got bad news for you. We always have bad news in here. Willie, I saw you sneak in here. What's up, Willie? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I think you guys are probably going to get some more, if you're not already getting that from what was it, Imogene? What the hell's her name? Bob, Doug Llewellyn, Imelda. Yeah, I think you're probably going to be catching some of Imelda. We'll talk more about that later in the show. Right now, let's get to the news, the bad news that you've come accustomed to on the show. White House releases Gaza ceasefire plan as Trump hosts Netanyahu. The White House released a 20-point plan. We're going to go over that in just a second. For a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip yesterday as Trumpy hosted Bibi for another sleepover, his fourth to Washington this year. Read the full ceasefire proposal at the end of the article. During a joint press conference, Bibi said that he has accepted the proposal, though throughout the genocidal war, he has repeatedly sabotaged ceasefire deals. And there are several points that Hamas may not accept. Israel also broke the last ceasefire deal that was signed in January. Al Jazeera reported that Qatar and, or Qatar, whatever you want to call it. I like Qatar because it sounds like guitar. Steve Wolfram, what's up? Good to see you. Over on the Facebooks. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for holding it down over there, Steve. Al Jazeera reported that Qatar and Egypt have delivered the proposal to Hamas. Netanyahu said that if Hamas doesn't accept the U.S.-Israeli proposal, Israel will, quote, finish the job in Gaza. And Trumpy said he's willing to continue backing the slaughter in Gaza. If Hamas rejects the deal, Bibi, you will have our full backing to do what you have to do. That dumb motherfucker said. The deal would involve an immediate ceasefire followed by Hamas releasing all remaining Israeli captives. Once that happens, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Palestinians thrown in Israeli prisons if they're not dead. I'll tell you about that in a second. After October 7, 2023, including all women and children detained in that context. The deal includes a phased Israeli withdrawal, although it would allow Israel to maintain control of a buffer zone. They got to have that buffer zone inside Gaza's border until Gaza is properly secure from any resurgent terror threat, which means it'll always be there. One of the potential sticking points for Hamas, and they know that too. Hamas knows that. The agreement would establish a temporary transitional government headed by apolitical Palestinians that will be overseen by a so-called Board of Peace. Trump will be the chair of the board, of course, and former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair will also be involved. I think we have something on him coming up. Do we? Yes. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so the proposal calls for the demilitarization of Gaza, which could be rejected by Hamas since the group has said it wouldn't disarm until a Palestinian state is formed. Under the U.S. plan, the U.S. would work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force, an ISF, to immediately deploy in Gaza. The deal suggests a reformed Palestinian Authority could eventually take over governance in Gaza, an idea Netanyahu has repeatedly rejected. The outline also says that if the deal is implemented, it may lead to a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, but it doesn't mention the Israeli-occupied West Bank, where Israel continues to expand illegal Jewish settlements. The proposal also says that Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza and that no one will be forced to leave Gaza. A break from Trump's previous calls for the removal of the Palestinian population, which Israeli officials have used to push for the ethnic cleansing of the territory. Okay, so here's the following is the full ceasefire plan as outlined by the White House. So Trump's comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict. Number one, Gaza will be a de-radicalized terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. Well, maybe if the neighbors didn't pose a threat to them, they wouldn't pose a threat to them. I think that's how that works. Yeah, this is fantasy genocidal fiction. Yeah, exactly. If you don't accept this bullcrap, we won't be honoring. We're going to keep doing whatever we want anyway. Yeah, or you could just say we're going to keep doing whatever we want anyway, whether they accept shit or not. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza. Right, who have suffered more than enough. If both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended, not stopped, suspended. And battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. Within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th. Why are they being detained? They're not Hamas. Including all women and children detained in the context. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. Once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons, which is never going to happen, will be given amnesty. Right. It's a trap. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid quantities will be consistent with what was included in the January 19th agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, that's water, electricity, and sewage, rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries. There's rehabilitation. You're going to have to rebuild all this shit. and entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and open roads. Entry of distribution and aid in the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the UN and its agencies and the Red Crescent, in addition to other international institutions not associated in any manner with either party. Opening the Rafah crossing in both directions will be subject to the same mechanism implemented under the January 19th agreement. Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee, responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, the BOP, which will be headed and chaired by Trumpy, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program as outlined in various proposals, including Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and can securely and effectively take control of Gaza. This body will call on best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment. And there's a few more here. So I'll just kind of go over them briefly. I'm going to have these in our Substack. So if you haven't subscribed to Substack, you can do it for free. You don't have to pay nothing. And you'll get a link to the show on YouTube, but you'll also get links to all the stories that we have in the show. So if you want to go over these with a little more gusto, a Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. I'm sure that's their words, not the actual truth. A special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. No one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. We will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. Hamas and other factions agree not to have any role in the governance of Gaza, directly, indirectly, or any form. A guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with their obligations. And the faction, a guarantee will be provided by regional partners to how are they going to control Israel? Make them comply with their obligations. Sanctions? And that new Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors' people. The U.S. will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force to immediately deploy in Gaza. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. In the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled-up operation, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. So if they delay or reject this proposal, then basically they're just going to flatten them. Take the deal or be eliminated. An interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try and change mindsets of narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits that can be derived from peace. While Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform program is faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood. You know, they kind of had that about 75 years ago before the U.S. and the U.K. decided to carve it up. The U.S. will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. Blah, 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 blah. So that's their 20-point plan. And Israel, you know, Israel's not going to, they're going to just keep bombing them. They're just humoring Trump, feeding his ego, making him think that he's actually doing something. He ain't doing shit. And then they're going to keep bombing Gaza, and then Netanyahu's going to be like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? That's what they're going to do. Yeah, BB Gun already admitted in Hebrew the deal is a BS ruse. Yeah, of course it is. Everybody knows. Meanwhile, back to the killing. Israeli forces kill 50 Palestinians, 50 plus, I believe, in Gaza over the last 24 hours. Gaza's health ministry said yesterday that Israeli forces killed at least 50 Palestinians and wounded 184 over the previous 24-hour period, as the IDF continues its assault on Gaza City and attacks across the Strip. A number of victims are still under the rubble and in the streets, where ambulance and civil defense crews are unable to reach them at this time, the health ministry wrote on Telegram. The Palestinian news agency WAFA reported that at least 33 Palestinians were killed across Gaza so far on Monday, a count based on the number of bodies brought to hospitals. The total includes 24 bodies that arrived at the Al-Shifa Hospital and the Al-Ali Baptist Hospital in Gaza City. The UN's Child Relief Agency, UNICEF, said yesterday that 25 ill or premature babies in incubators in Gaza City are at risk due to the Israeli assault. Medics told Reuters that the Al-Hilo Hospital, where 12 of the babies are located, was shelled by Israeli forces overnight. Baby Hamas is what they claimed. Well, I mean, I'm just assuming they claim that. Ricardo Pyers, a spokesman for UNICEF, said that some of the babies are sharing incubators due to shortages caused by the Israeli blockade. Pyers, I think it's Pyers, said he was in Gaza City last month where he saw one of the premature babies, a girl who was removed from her mother's womb after she was shot in the head and killed. Pyers warned that evacuating the babies would be incredibly dangerous, but he said he thought it was still the best option. It's time to move them because Gaza City, again, has become a combat zone, but moving them where? There is no safe place for them to go. He said, moving them seems like the best option we have now, but at the same time, it's a very risky one. Little babies. The IDF has ordered all civilians in Gaza City to flee to the south as it pursues its goal of forcibly displacing the entire civilian population and razing every building in the city to the ground, but it continues attacking Palestinians in central and southern Gaza. According to WAFA, at least 4 Palestinians were killed in southern Gaza on Monday while waiting for humanitarian aid. And there are the numbers, which are way too low. I'm not even going to report those anymore. That's just ridiculous. Meanwhile, Gaza families bombed after refusing to collaborate with Israel. Here we go. Friends and neighbors, right? Israel has bombed homes belonging to prominent Palestinian families in the Gaza Strip, killing dozens of people after they refused to cooperate with the Israeli army against Hamas. According to Euromed Human Rights Monitor, Israeli forces approached the Bakr family in Al-Shati refugee camp west of Gaza City, offering them the chance to remain in their homes in exchange for forming a militia in the area to oppose Hamas. How about that? That's some protection racket shit. One day after the family refused, Israeli airstrikes hit their homes on Sunday, killing at least 9 people, including children. Similar incidents were reported involving the Dairi and Damash families in other parts of Gaza City. Homes belonging to both families were bombed heavily on Friday and Saturday after they reportedly rejected similar Israeli offers. At least 60 people were killed in those strikes. The Saudi-owned newspaper Sharq al-Aswat reported Al-Assad reported that Israeli intelligence agency Shin Bet had contacted leaders from the families as part of a wider plan to divide Gaza into local fiefdoms. Euromed described the offers as part of an ongoing policy of extortion, forcing Palestinian families to choose between collaborating with Israel or facing mass killing, starvation, and forcible displacement. What began as individual extortion has escalated into a systematic collective practice aimed at dismantling the Palestinian social fabric by forcing people to betray their communities and subjecting survivors to conditions that erode communal identity and resilience, the organization said. It added that it had gathered testimonies from families who were threatened with siege, starvation, starvation or death if they refuse to comply with Israeli demands. This practice transforms humanitarian relief from an unconditional right into a tool of extortion and control, placing civilian lives on coercive bargaining tables and stripping them of fundamental protections. Pretty much. A shark Assad, damn, I cannot say that, Assad, reported that one of the Bakr family elders said that Israeli intelligence contacted the family's head, asking them to form an armed group to control the refugee camp after Israeli forces defeated Hamas fighters in the area. The family categorically rejected the plan, adding that they understood they would face retaliation as a result. Wow. The source stressed that this rejection of working alongside Israel is a decision driven by a principled national stance and is not an expression of support for Hamas or other Palestinian factions. Palestinian factions have praised what they called the genuine position taken by families and clans, describing it in a statement on Sunday as a safety valve for Palestinian society. They said that the refusal of families and tribes to yield to Zionist temptations and attempts to infiltrate the Palestinian internal front represents a new blow to Israel and, quote, an honorable stance that will be remembered in the brightest pages of Palestinian history. Israel previously admitted to arming local gangs in Gaza, including the infamous Yasser Abu Shabab's forces. We made use of clans in Gaza that are opposed to Hamas. What's wrong with that? Bibi said on the tweeters in early June. Are you using like ISIS too? Or Al-Qaeda or something? As part of Israel's latest plans, a scheme involving prominent communities, families, and tribes in Gaza aims to establish local control to undermine Hamas. According to findings by Euromed, these efforts have evolved into a form of organized collective coercion. The organization stated that attempts to form such militias could, through threats, amount to genocidal intent and constitute a war crime. Yeah, exactly. So they're telling these people, hey, maybe you want to start maybe have a militia and make sure you take care of these people, that they don't fuck around or nothing. And these families are like, eat a bag of dicks. I don't know how you say that in Arab, but I want to find out. I want to get that translated so we can teach them. Tell them, eat a bag of dicks. All right, what's this? All right. Meanwhile, is the Knesset in Israel is chomping at the bit to murder. They really want these people dead. Israeli Knesset advances bill to execute Palestinian prisoners. Now, I thought they're supposed to be as part of this peace deal. They're supposed to release them. Why are they going to kill? The National Security Committee in the Israeli Knesset has advanced a bill to impose the death penalty on Palestinian prisoners detained for killing Israelis. Lawmakers in the committee voted 4-1 for the bill on September 28th. During a recent Knesset session, 3 other votes are needed for the bill to become law. The draft specifies executions for those convicted of killings motivated by racism or hostility to the public, which can mean they could, interpret that as anything, or aimed at harming the state of Israel and the revival of the Jewish people. In other words, those resisting Israeli occupation by carrying out armed operations. The bill would not apply to Israelis who kill Palestinians, though. Nah, fam. The committee's legal advisor, Ido Ben Yitzhak, warned that voting during the Knesset recess is not valid because the discussion preceding the vote did not include input from the security establishment. The only MK who voted against the bill was Gilad Kariv of the Democrats Party. Shame on you, there are hostages, he said. Bibi coordinator for negotiations on the captives, Gal Hirsch, also opposed the bill. Hirsch warned that advancing the bill could put captives held in Gaza at risk. It's not for nothing that we're asking not to hold this discussion. I completely disagree with your assessment of the situation, Mr. Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, especially when we are engaged in a combined military and diplomatic effort to bring back the hostages. This discussion does not help us, Hurst told Otzma Yehudit chairman and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Hirsch went on to say on the tweeters that he urged Netanyahu that the issue being discussed today in the committee not be brought to the plenum before a thorough discussion is held in the cabinet, where I will be able to present the full picture and my own assessment. Ben-Gvir said people in Netanyahu's office asked him to postpone the death penalty discussions, but that he refused because he's a bloodthirsty maniac. The security minister said the bill would bring deterrence and advance the return of the hostages while showing Hamas that there is a price tag for what they did on October 7th. The Palestinian Prisoners Society referred to the bill as unprecedented savagery. Hey, what's up, Peace Dove? Good to see you, bud. Prior to the formation of Netanyahu's ruling coalition, Ben-Gvir had been demanding the death penalty for Palestinians, and at one point even made the demand as a condition for his joining the government. Since assuming the role of National Security Minister, Ben-Gvir has tightened the already repressive measures against Palestinians in the Israeli prison system. Earlier this month, Israel's High Court ruled that Palestinian prisoners were not being properly fed. Among all the rape and torture that's going on there too. Last month, PPS reported that Israeli forces used police dogs and tear gas during a series of repressive raids against women held in Dearman prison. The assaults took place on August 4th, 8th, 10th, and 14th when detainees were handcuffed, forced from their cells in a manner described as humiliating, and led to the prison yard with their heads pushed down. PPS said these attacks are not new, but a form of a systematic policy against Palestinian men and women in detention, which has escalated to unprecedented levels since the start of the genocidal war against Gaza. Just think of Abu Ghraib during the Gulf War, or the war against Iraq, and the conditions there at Abu Ghraib, and that was Americans doing that shit. The Israelis are doing way worse. I mean, it's not a pissing contest, but I'm just saying, if you want a comparison, Abu Ghraib is like Disneyland compared to that place. So what's going on with the aid flotilla, you may be axing? Well, international aid flotilla nearing Gaza in bid to break Israeli siege. I think they're only, a couple days out now? An international aid flotilla is approaching the Gaza Strip in a bid to break an Israeli blockade on the Palestinian enclave, organizers said Monday. We are 570 kilometers, about 307.7 nautical miles away from reaching Gaza, the International Committee for Breaking the Siege on Gaza, or ICBSIG, said on the U.S. social media company Tweeters. Tony La Piccarella, an Italian activist from the Global Samud Flotilla, said in a video statement that they will reach on Tuesday the point that Madleen and Handala aid ships had been intercepted by Israeli naval forces. So today they're getting to that point in previous attempts to lift the Israeli siege and deliver humanitarian aid. On July 26, Israeli naval forces intercepted the Handala aid ship as it neared Gaza shores and escorted it to Ashdod port. The vessel had reached about 70 nautical miles from Gaza, surpassing the distance covered by the Madleen, which made it 110 miles before it had been stopped. I'm interested to see what they can do with 50 boats. What are they going to do? A group of activists joined the Global Samud Flotilla from the Mediterranean on Monday, and 2 more boats are joining from the Greek Cypriot administration and Turkey. The biggest ship of the flotilla will set sail on Tuesday with 100 on board, the activist said. The Piccarello said in addition to Italian and Spanish Navy vessels that provide protection for the flotilla, 3 more countries are considering sending more military vessels without revealing the names of these countries. So it's getting bigger, and it's not about us, about the Global Samud Flotilla. It's like a movement with hundreds of people at sea and millions of people on land, and it's not stoppable until the siege is broken, he said. The Global Samud Flotilla, made up of about 50 ships, set sail earlier this month to break Israel's blockade on Gaza and deliver humanitarian aid, particularly medical supplies, to the war-ravaged enclave. Pardon me. Since March 2nd, Israel has fully closed Gaza's crossings, blocking food and aid convoys and deepening famine conditions in the enclave. The Israeli army, he has killed... Yeah, okay, and there's the numbers there. Low numbers. Those numbers are way low. So Italian dock workers vow to block all of Europe in defense of Gaza aid flotilla. Dock workers in the Italian port of Genoa have declared their support for the global Samud flotilla sailing toward Gaza and have vowed to block shipments to Israel if the fleet of aid vessels is attacked again. Recent days have seen large pro-Palestine protests in Genoa. Is that Genoa or Genoa? I think it's Genoa, that are being led by the dock workers. Dock workers from across Europe met last week to discuss a potential plan for blocking arms shipments to Israel. The outcome of the discussions has not been disclosed. Obstructing all shipments to and from Israel is the only way to force a shift in direction. Ricardo Rodino, a leader in the CALP Dock Workers Collective, told Politico on September 28th, if they, that was Sunday? Yeah. I think it was Sunday. If they attack the flotilla, there will be a general strike, and if Israel doesn't alter course in Gaza, a total trade blockade. There is no other path, he added. I like that general strike idea. If we could get the world to general strike, whew. Wow. If the flotilla is hindered in any way, Rodino says Italian port workers will block all of Europe, and that not a single nail will be sent to Israel from Genoa. What's up, Michael Global? Good to see you. Blocking things is the people's weapon. We don't have tanks. We don't have missiles. Blocking things at times with our bodies is the only weapon at our disposal, he went on to say. The Italian General Confederation of Labor, the CGIL, also vowed to launch a general strike if the flotilla is threatened by Israel. Several governments have warned their citizens participating in the global Samud flotilla of an imminent Israeli attack, according to statements by the flotilla's organizers on September 25th. Many international activists, including Greta Thunberg, are present on the flotilla. Last week, the flotilla came under successive drone attacks that were not acknowledged by Israel because they're too pussy. What's up, Wesley? Good morning, sir. Activists on board several of the flotilla's boats reported at least 10 explosions after witnessing drones launching several attacks early on Wednesday. The boats were situated off the coast of Greece. The global Samud flotilla also came under 2 attacks earlier in September. As you may remember, the vessels are carrying hundreds of tons of humanitarian aid for civilians in Gaza who are being starved and bombarded by the Israeli army. It has been described as the largest civilian flotilla in history. Following the latest drone attacks last week, Italy redirected 2 Navy ships to assist the flotilla. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's government has proposed handing over the aid to Cyprus and the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem for delivery to Gaza, an office in the Catholic Church with jurisdiction over Catholics in Israel and surrounding regions, to assume responsibility for delivery. I want to reiterate what I think about this matter because all this is gratuitous, dangerous, irresponsible, Maloney said in an interview criticizing the flotilla. There is no need to risk one's own safety. There is no need to enter a war zone to deliver aid to Gaza, which the Italian government and the relevant authorities delivered in a few hours, or could have delivered in a few hours, she added. Her proposal aligns with Israeli demands that the aid be delivered to the port of Ashkelon, directly north of the Gaza Strip, so the aid can be transferred under Israeli supervision. In other words, so they can just dump it in the fucking ocean or just sell it or whatever those creeps do with that aid over there. Meanwhile, Tehran says they've executed the top Mossad agent amid rising fears of internal subversion. Iran has executed a man it described as one of the most important spies for Israel's Mossad in the latest episode of the long-running covert conflict between the two countries. The judiciary's official news agency, Mizan, confirmed that Bahman Chubiasl was hanged following a final ruling by the Supreme Court. Chubiasl, who was reportedly involved in sensitive telecommunications projects, was convicted of corruption on Earth. That's an interesting charge. A charge frequently used in espionage and national security cases in Iran. The judiciary claimed that he was recruited by the Israeli intelligence services to breach Iranian data centers and obtain government databases alongside tracking imports of sensitive electronic equipment. According to Iranian reports, Mossad's primary objective in recruiting Chubiasl was to obtain the database of governmental institutions and create a breach in Iranian data centers. It's unclear whether Chubiasl was arrested or how long he had been in custody before his execution. This execution marks the 10th such case since Israeli airstrikes in June, targeting Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure. The unprovoked attack killed more than 1,100 Iranians, according to Amnesty International, including top generals, nuclear scientists, and civilians. Iran responded with missile and drone barrages, some of which struck Israeli territory. Israel has not commented publicly on Chubiasl's execution. However, Tel Aviv has previously acknowledged conducting covert operations deep inside Iran and assassinating nuclear scientists and military commanders, usually with the support of Mossad operatives. Iran's judiciary noted that Chubiasl's cooperation with Mossad was not limited to one project and that the espionage network had broader strategic aims to destabilize national infrastructure. He is the second Iranian to be executed this month for alleged collaboration with Israeli intelligence following the hanging of Babak Shabazi. Throughout the June war, Israeli officials reportedly called on Iranians to rise up and overthrow their government. Soldiers were sent anonymous threats warning that their families would be targeted unless they abandoned their posts. Several terror attacks, including a high-profile car bombing in Tehran, were linked by Iranian authorities to groups trained or inspired by Israel. Analysts say the use of psychological warfare, targeted assassinations, and proxy violence suggests an Israeli strategy aimed at inciting insurrection and fracturing Iran's security apparatus from within. Yeah, divide and conquer. In this context, Chubiasl's role may have extended beyond technical sabotage. His execution has been interpreted by observers as part of Iran's effort to neutralize what it sees as a domestic front in Israel's war against the Islamic Republic. International human rights organizations have expressed alarm at the increasing number of executions in Iran, which topped 1,000 already this year, according to reports from Iran Human Rights and the Abdurrahman Boromon Center. Many of those sentenced to death are linked to political protests, economic grievances, or increasingly charges of espionage and collaboration with foreign powers. And when you get attacked like that as a country, and the United States is a perfect example of this after 9/11, I'm not saying that Tehran is acting in the same way as the U.S. did in 9/11. But when you're attacked like that, the way they were attacked, you tend to get paranoid as a country, right? And that's the unfortunate part about this. Unless you've got all of your shit together, you're pretty level-headed as a governing body, chances are you're going to have people in there who are like, these people are everywhere. They're all spies. There's spies everywhere. And that's where you run into trouble with that. So speaking of Iran, the European Union has, guess what, reimposed sanctions on Iran, freezes central bank assets. And Iran knew this was going to happen. The EU confirmed yesterday or Sunday, the EU confirmed that it has reimposed sweeping sanctions on Iran after the UN triggered a return of punitive measures through the so-called snapback mechanism. Today, the EU reinstated sanctions against Iran in response to its continued noncompliance with the nuclear agreement. The door for diplomatic negotiations remains open, the EU presidency said. The measures include freezing the assets of the Iranian central bank and other banks, as well as travel bans on selected officials. Brussels has also barred Iran from purchasing or transporting crude oil and from trading in gold and naval equipment. Yeah, something tells me something's going to break with this. European Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said the bloc would now proceed to implement the reimposition of all previously lifted UN and EU nuclear-related sanctions without delay. At the UN, sanctions originally adopted between 2006 and 2010 were restored on Saturday night after Britain, France, and Germany, Larry and Curley, invoked the snapback procedure against Iran's nuclear program. These include a renewed arms embargo, a ban on uranium enrichment, restrictions on ballistic missile activities, and orders for all states to seize and dispose of prohibited items. The foreign ministers of the 3 European states urged Iran and all states to abide fully by these resolutions, and once the deadline passed, they added that diplomacy remains an option and that Tehran could still return to compliance. Iran denounced the decision as unjustifiable and recalled its ambassadors from London, Paris, and Berlin for consultations. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran had no intention of leaving the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai accused the UN Security Council of bowing to a fabricated rules-based order dictated by Washington. I don't see the lie there. Any attempt by the E3 or the U.S. to revive terminated sanctions is null and void, he warned. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, in letters to governments worldwide, described the move as entirely unfounded, unlawful, and invalid. Moscow rejected the legitimacy of the sanctions. It is unlawful and it cannot be implemented, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, calling it a major mistake for the UN Secretary General to recognize them. Israel celebrated the measures, of course, calling them a major development. The goal is clear, the Israeli Foreign Ministry said in a post on the tweeters. Prevent a nuclear-armed Iran. The world must use every tool to achieve this goal. But what about a nuclear-armed Israel? I think that's way more dangerous. Washington echoed the demand for immediate enforcement, with U.S. Secretary of State Aquaman insisting that although there's a new deal, it was important for countries to implement sanctions immediately in order to pressure Iran's leaders. He was underwater at the time of that interview. My head's full of boogers today. What do we got next? What are we doing here? Okay, so getting into Yemen. Yemeni missile attack causes substantial damage to ship in the Gulf of Aden. A missile launched by Ansar Allah in Yemen, aka the Houthis, struck a Dutch-flagged cargo vessel in the Gulf of Aden, causing injuries to the crew and damage to the ship. The ship's operator, Spleetoff, whatever, confirmed the attack on the Minervaraj. Earlier today, its general cargo vessel, that thing, was on a passage in the Gulf of Aden in international waters, has come under attack of an unidentified explosive device, inflicting substantial damage to the ship, the statement explained. Only they pronounced the names right, hopefully. The 19 crew members on the ship were executed by helicopter. Were executed by helicopter. The two people were injured by the attack. After the strike, the vessel caught fire, and Spleetoff said a warship was deployed to assist the Minervaraj, the Minegret. While the Houthis did not confirm they were behind the attack, the Minervaraj was attacked by a missile fired from Yemen last week that missed the ship. Ansar Allah, the group that has ruled most populated areas of Yemen since 2015, has imposed a blockade of Israeli-linked shipping through the Red Sea in response to the genocide in Gaza. Ansar Allah has significantly reduced the flow of shipping through the Bab al-Mandab Strait. Additionally, Ansar Allah has damaged, captured, and sunk multiple ships attempting to break the blockade. The conflict between Yemen and Israel has escalated recently. Israel has bombarded Yemen, hitting civilian targets. In one slaughter, an Israeli bomb struck media offices, killing dozens of journalists. Ansar Allah has fired missiles and drones directly into Israel. Last week, a Yemeni drone injured 22 people at a hotel in southern Israel. Yeah. So, man, I keep doing that. The Houthis, man, those guys are just, they're made of like, I don't know, vibranium or something. They are just tough as hell. We go to the Saudis now. The Saudis are buying EA Arts, Electronic Arts, to be bought for $55 billion. What the hell do they want to do with Madden 26? That game's shit. Of course, this fucking lizard person's in the mix. Okay, so video game giant Electronic Arts, known for the Sims and FIFA games and the Madden titles too, announced Monday it would be acquired for $55 billion by a consortium led by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. The group includes U.S. investment firm Silver Lake and Affinity Partners, the Miami-based firm founded by Jared Kushner, former White House advisor and son-in-law to Trumpy. This moment is a powerful recognition of their remarkable work, EA chairman and CEO Andrew Wilson said of the company's employees in a statement, adding the deal would help unlock new opportunities on a global stage. Now, they screwed up The Sims. They screwed up Madden. They lost the FIFA license. EA shit. The deal would be the largest all-cash private equity buyout in history, the statement said. EA, known for popular franchises including FIFA Soccer, Madden NFL, The Sims, and Battlefield, reported revenues of $7.5 billion in its most recent fiscal year. Welcome back, Steve. What's up, Spirit of the Age, over on the Rumble? Good to see ya. Yeah, the flotilla will be a litmus test for the coming agreement. I guarantee. A new twist on future Battlefield releases is likely. Yeah, they're going to have beheadings in there, too. Because it's, it's Saudi Arabia. So FIFA was updated annually from 1993 to 2023. Wow, 30 years they had that? Before EA lost the license following a financial disagreement between EA and the FIFA organization. The game, now called EA Sports FC, or Football Club, has largely retained its player base, becoming the best-selling game in Western Europe in 2023, the year the first renamed edition launched. The publisher also owns the Sims franchise, which allows players to create an avatar and develop characters and a city in a virtual world. It's somewhat limited, too. SimCity 3 was, The Sims 3 was much better. 25 years after its launch, The Sims continues to attract new fans. In May 2024, EA revealed that 85 million people were playing the latest version, The Sims 4. And that the reason why that you can attribute the success to that is because of the modding community, right? These people who make these modification programs for video games to make them a hell of a lot better, because for some reason the developers didn't think to put that in, or they were just like, that's just too much. The California-based company is also counting on the release of the new version of its first-person shooter game, Battlefield, called Battlefield 6, which will be its 13th installment in the series. Well, if it's Battlefield 6, why is it the 13th? Numbers scare me. After seeing its revenue soar in the years following the COVID-19 pandemic, because everybody was stuck at home and playing video games, the company, founded by former Apple employee Trip Hopkins in 1982, has experienced a slowdown in line with the sector as a whole. This major new deal in the video game world comes 2 years after Microsoft's $75 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard, which also left the stock market. On Wall Street, the shares of remaining listed gamers were up Monday. Roblox rose 4.72%, while Take-Two Interactive gained 1.53%. The acquisition is expected to close in early fiscal 2027 and requires approval from the EA shareholders and regulatory authorities. Saudi Arabia's PIF, which already holds a 9.9% stake in EA, will roll over its existing investment as part of the transaction. This announcement follows a tour of the Gulf region in May by Trumpy, which was marked by promises of huge investments. Trump signed a strategic economic partnership agreement with Saudi Crown Prince MBS, the country's de facto leader, which, according to the White House, will see Riyadh invest $600 billion in the United States. Video games are at the heart of the Crown Prince's ambitious Vision 2030 reform plan. The oil-rich monarchy is passionate about gaming and esports. 70% of Saudis are under 35, and MBS, aged 40 himself, is known to be a fan of the game Call of Duty. Well, why am I not surprised? The deal will be financed through approximately $36 billion in equity from the consortium members and $20 billion in debt committed by J.P. Morgan Chase. Upon completion, EA will be delisted from the NASDAQ stock exchange and remain headquartered in Redwood City, California, under Wilson's continued leadership. The agreement marks PIF's latest major investment in the gaming sector as Saudi Arabia seeks to diversify its economy beyond oil revenues. Too bad they can't get Rockstar Games, because when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, that's going to probably break the internet. They're still selling copies of 5. I think that game's been out, like 20 years, some shit. Yeah, so EA Sports, it's in the game, and so are the beheadings. Hello, thank you. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has threatened to attack U.S. troops who help Ukraine fire Tomahawk missiles into Russia. That will be the find out portion of the fuck around. Russian officials warned Washington that U.S. troops assisting Ukraine using Tomahawk missiles would become targets themselves. And remarks were a response to VP JD, who said the White House is considering sending the long-range munitions to Kiev. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov questioned what role the Americans would have in assisting Ukraine in firing Tomahawk missiles. The question is this: who can launch these missiles? Can only Ukrainians launch them, or do American soldiers have to do that? Peskov told reporters. Who is determining the targeting of these missiles, the American side or the Ukrainians themselves? In 2023, the Discord leaks revealed that there were 100 U.S. troops in Ukraine, along with approximately 100 soldiers from several European nations. Andrei Kartapolov, head of the Russian State Duma's Defense Committee, explained that the American troops could become targets if they assist Ukraine in attacking Russia with Tomahawk missiles. And no one will protect them, not Trump, not Kellogg, nor anyone else, he said. The threats from Moscow follow several aggressive statements from Washington and Kiev. Trump claimed on social media that Ukraine was in a position to win the war, and the Russian military was a paper tiger. Then President Zelensky called for the U.S. to give Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine and threatened to attack the Russian leadership. Vance and Trump's envoy to the conflict, Keith Kellogg, gave some legitimacy to Zelensky's remarks by explaining that the White House was considering allowing Europe to buy Tomahawk missiles for Ukraine. Kellogg went on to argue that Ukraine should be allowed to conduct strikes deep into Russian territory. Use the ability to hit deep. There are no such things as sanctuaries, he said. And then he went to a sanctuary. Tomahawks have a range of about 1,500 miles. Peskov downplayed the impact the missiles would have on the conflict. Even if it happens that the U.S. sends its Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, currently there is no cure-all that could be a game changer on the front lines for the Kiev regime. No magical weapons exist, and Tomahawk or other missiles simply won't be a game changer, he said. That's when they bring out the UFO weapons that they got off those ships that they found or shot down. Right? Pew pew. Those energy weapons, like Taiwan's getting this thing that shoots like 1,000,000 bullets a second or some shit. They fire so quick it looks like a fucking laser. The fuck needs that kind of shit? So Belarus, will you do the fandango? Their president, Lukashenko, issues a warning to NATO. Russia and Belarus will instantly retaliate with all they've got in the event that one of their aircraft is shot down by a NATO state. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has said members of the U.S.-led military bloc have been increasingly discussing downing Russian planes in recent weeks. Poland and Estonia accused Moscow of airspace violations earlier this month, allegations which Russia has said are devoid of any proof. They can blab, throw out shady statements, but when it comes down to action, you'll see what they'll shoot down and how, Lukashenko said in an interview with Russian journalist Pavel Zarubin on Sunday. The president added that he often travels to places on the Belarusian border with Poland. Are they going to shoot down the presidential helicopter or some military escort helicopter? The retaliation will come instantly, Lukashenko said. He expressed hope that the NATO countries would calm down and talk. They need allowed statements today to calm down some part of Polish society, he said. In early September, Warsaw accused Moscow of sending a number of drones into its airspace, which Russia has denied. Last week, Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski warned that any intrusions into Polish airspace would be met with force. Trumpy replied affirmatively that asked whether NATO states should be able to shoot down Russian aircraft that breach their airspace. In September, the U.S. had taken steps towards a thaw in relations with Belarus, dropping some Biden-era sanctions on the country's domestic airline in return for the pardoning of scores of prisoners. The West has imposed several rounds of sanctions on Belarus, a close Russian ally, including following the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022. Meanwhile, in Moldova, you know that place, Moldovan parliamentary election results announced. So according to official figures, the pro-EU party of President Maya Sandu received over 50% of the vote, barely, amid allegations of cheating and misuse of administrative resources. Video game diplomacy. Yeah, that's fine. Moldova's opposition gained 49.8% of the vote in a tightly contested parliamentary election, narrowly trailing the ruling pro-EU PAS party, which secured 50.2%. That is razor thin, folks. That is a difference of 0.4%. The EU candidate country Central Electoral Commission announced on Monday, after all ballots were counted, the Patriotic Electoral Bloc Alliance, the PEB, I don't know, I think it's probably something else, which advocates for closer ties with Russia and a constitutional neutrality, gained 24.2%, while centrist Alternativa got 8%, and the left-leaning and Eurosceptic Our Party secured 6.2% of the ballot. Smaller pro-European and centrist groups such as PPDA at 5.6% also entered parliament, while several minor parties failed to gain more than 1%. However, the voting process was marked by widespread complaints of uneven access. Out of 301 foreign polling stations, only 2 were opened in Russia, despite the country hosting one of the largest Moldovan diaspora communities in the world, up to 500,000 people. Just over 4,100 votes were recorded in Russia, with long lines reported in Moscow, while in Italy, another major destination for Moldovan workers, over 70 polling sites enabled tens of thousands to cast ballots. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov declined to comment on the election's results, while drawing attention to the fact that some political forces have expressed their disagreement and are talking about possible violations in the elections. Former Moldovan President Igor Dodon, one of the leaders of the Patriotic Bloc, disputed the results, saying that the pro-EU party of President Maya Sandu had only managed to hold on to power thanks to the diaspora's votes. Sandu said she was happy the Moldovans made their choice despite all the interference and money spent by Moscow. Russia has consistently denied any election interference claims. Russia's always getting blamed for election interference, aren't they? European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also welcomed the outcome of the election, saying, "No attempt to Sofia a division to break your resolve and your major clear. Your choice clear. Europe, democracy, freedom." It's like, what's his name? Blofeld? Was that him from Dr. Strangelove? Blofeld? I can't remember the guy's name. He's so funny. Peter Sellers, man. R.I.P. King. So the War Department here in the United States pushes to double or quadruple missile production to prepare for potential war with China, because you know what? Russia's not enough. It's just part of a world war. We need a world war. Even though they're neighbors, China and Russia. Maybe it's a war of convenience. Who knows? So the U.S. War Department, the artist formerly known as the Department of Defense, is pushing U.S. weapon makers to double or even quadruple the production of missiles to help the U.S. military prepare for a potential future war with China. That's according to the Wall Street Journal on Monday. The report said that senior Pentagon officials expressed a desire for a significant increase in production during a series of meetings with representatives from several U.S. missile manufacturers. Steve Feinberg, the Deputy U.S. Secretary of War, oh my God, has taken a leading role in the effort, which has been dubbed the Munitions Acceleration Council, or MAC, and regularly speaks with some executives. U.S. military has been openly preparing for a war with China for years, despite the obvious risk of nuclear war. The preparations have involved expanding the U.S. military footprint in the Asia Pacific, building alliances in the region, and increasing weapon shipments to Taiwan, including that nightmare gun that they have. Yeah, this shit. The Journal reports that the Journal report said that the effort at expanding missile production is focused on weapons the Pentagon believes it needs for a conflict with China, including Patriot interceptors, long-range anti-ship missiles, the Standard Missile 6, which the ladies like that, precision strike missiles, and joint air-surface standoff missiles. Since 2022, the Pentagon has formally considered China the top threat facing the U.S., although that may soon change, as reports say. The War Department's forthcoming National Defense Strategy, the NDS, may prioritize missions in the homeland and the Western Hemisphere over countering Beijing. That's right. They're going after those 1980s Miami Vice drug dealers in their speedboats. In a statement back in May, Secretary Pete Hegseth said he was directing the Pentagon's policy chief, Elbridge Colby, to begin work on the new NDS, which he said will prioritize defense of the U.S. homeland, including America's skies and borders, and deterring China in the Indo-Pacific. Colby is a well-known China hawk who has long pushed for the U.S. to prioritize China and prepare for a war over Taiwan, though there are signs that he has started to doubt the U.S.'s ability to defend the island. Either way, the U.S. is expected to continue its military buildup in the region because, money for the military, the money industrial complex. Colby and other China hawks have long argued that the U.S. should put more focus on arming Taiwan and preserving its military stockpiles to prepare for war in the region. But the U.S. has continued to pour weapons into Ukraine and has used a significant amount of munitions over the past 2 years, backing Israel in its wars in the Middle East. Yeah, so the United States is... I think they're really going to get us into World War III. I'm pretty sure of that. I wouldn't be surprised that happens this year. The way things are escalating. Let's head back home as Oregon files a lawsuit against Trump to stop unlawful National Guard deployment. So this time the stupidity tour stops in Portland, I guess. calling a move by Trump to deploy National Guard soldiers to the city of Portland, Oregon, completely unlawful. State and city officials on Sunday filed a lawsuit to block the effort as they accused the Trump White House of overstepping its authority. What? Trump overstepping his authority? That never happens. The 41-page federal lawsuit challenging the unlawful deployment order was filed in the U.S. District Court of Oregon and names Trumpy as well as Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. A statement from the Office of Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield says the lawsuit backed by Governor Tina Kotek and Portland Mayor Keith Wilson argues that Trump lacks authority under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, which only permits federalization of National Guard troops typically under the command of state governors, only in circumstance of invasion, rebellion, or when federal laws cannot otherwise be executed. None of those circumstances exist in Oregon. The suit, which states that the heavy-handed deployment of troops threatens to escalate tensions and foment new unrest in the city, asks the court for immediate relief by declaring the Trump administration's order unlawful and halting any such deployment. Oregon communities are stable and our local officials have been clear. We have the capacity to manage public safety without federal interference, said Rayfield. Sending in 200 National Guard troops to guard a single building is not normal. What we're seeing is not about public safety, he continued. It's about the president flexing political muscle under the guise of law and order, chasing a media hit at the expense of our community. Exactly. The ACLU on Sunday characterized Trump's claim that Portland was war-ravaged as false on its face and condemned the order as illegal and dangerous. This major escalation from the president and the federal government has no place in our politics or our communities, said Sandy Chung, ACLU of Oregon's executive director. Oregonians have for months been exercising their constitutional right to criticize cruel federal policies. A forcible deployment of federal troops and armed law enforcement violates our right to govern ourselves and endangers our families and freedoms. Excuse me. In a news interview on Sunday, Rayfield denounced the numerous and absurd things Trump has both said and done in the name of public safety that are wholly counter to what's needed. If you really wanted public safety, you wouldn't threaten to send the United States military into any city. What you do is pick up the phone and work towards collaboration, finding out what resources a community actually needs, Rayfield said. Resources? Nah, just send in some warm bodies and with guns. I know for a fact from talking to cities across Oregon and across the country that if you pick up the phone and ask, what do you need? What could be helpful? The answer would not be the U.S. military. Yeah, my gutter is hanging down. It came loose during that last storm. Do you have like a hammer or something I could use so I can nail it back up, or maybe like a drill that I could fix it? Nah, we're going to send you 200 National Guard soldiers. They're just going to stand there and watch. Okay. Hina Shamsi, director of the ACLU's National Security Project, put the situation in Portland in a broader context, as it's not the first city where Trump has aimed National Guard soldiers, and it's unlikely to be the last. Like for other cities, Trump's justification for deploying troops and armed federal agents to Portland is blatantly false and inflammatory, as well as jeopardizes residents' fundamental liberties, warned Shamsi. After a harrowing week for our First Amendment freedoms, we see the president's strategy for what it is, an attempt to create conflict where there is none. Sow fear in our communities, that's the big one, fear, and intimidate people from exercising their constitutional rights, she added. But we won't be cowed. We won't let this president normalize military and armed federal policing in our country. This is not how a healthy democracy works. No, and we haven't had a healthy democracy probably ever, if you want to think about it. Maybe. But they're right here. This is all fear mongering, and fear is one of the best ways that you can use to control people, but you also get the biggest backlash from it as well. And I think Trump is trying to normalize the military being on the streets like that, so that people can get used to it. And don't get used to troops on the street, folks. Don't ever get used to that, because that's what they want. And as soon as you get used to that, they'll put more troops. And as soon as you get used to that, they'll put more troops, and so on and so on and so on. Meanwhile, here in Chicago, talking about ICE, CBS Chicago reporter says ICE shot chemical agents at her absolutely unprovoked. The attack came after a day of protest in which the National Lawyers Guild of Chicago says officers were launching chemical agents and firing munitions at members of the press and people assembled to protest. So local police have launched a criminal investigation after a CBS News Chicago reporter said she was attacked absolutely unprovoked by immigration agents outside a detention facility in Broadview. Television reporter Asal Razay was at the Broadview Center Sunday morning, where she'd been going for weeks since protests against ICE's Operation Midway Blitz began in Chicago earlier this month. When Razay realized there were no protesters at the scene, she began to drive away with the driver's side window down. That's when a masked agent fired a pepper ball at her car from behind the fence, causing the chemical agents to engulf the inside of her truck, according to CBS News. That's some bravery right there, firing a pepper ball from behind a fence. I think that's what happened with JFK. An ICE agent took a direct shot at my car today, absolutely unprovoked, Razay wrote on social media. My window was open and chemicals went all over my face. I've been puking for 2 hours. Razay explained that there was not one protester in sight and that she was simply driving by to check the scene out, like I've been for weeks, about 50 feet from the entrance. She posted photos of her car's windshield, which was left covered in specks of white powder. In a police report filed Sunday, Razay said, at this moment, it's not really clear why that officer took a shot at me. My car has been here several times, although I did not identify myself verbally as a member of the press. There were no protests going on. There was actually nobody there except one other person that was a member of a fire department that was there checking in on the buildings around this area. The Broadview Police Department has announced that it is opening an investigation into the attack. Police Chief Thomas Mills said in a statement that chemical agents were fired from the direction of the ICE detention facility toward Razay's vehicle. Mills said that the police department expects the full cooperation by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security into our criminal investigation. Yeah, he expects it, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. A spokesperson for DHS has denied that Razay was attacked, of course, saying, absolutely not. No member of the media at CBS or any other outlet was attacked. For their safety, we remind members of the media and journalists to exercise caution as they cover these violent riots. There was no protesters. There was no fucking protesters. Broadview Mayor Katrina Thompson warned on Friday that ICE officials have been making war in her community by deploying chemical arms such as tear gas, pepper spray, etc. against American citizens, our residents, and our first responders. Mills himself said he had been verbally attacked by ICE agents during a protest. He said that later, while attempting to gather information about an apparent hit and run by an ICE agent on a pedestrian, officers were hit with pepper spray, which altered their vision so badly that they were required to leave the scene. The agency's tactics only grew more brutal over the weekend, which local police say was a direct act of retaliation from the Department of Homeland Security. On Saturday morning, Broadview police said they received a message from ICE agents that it would be a shit show in Broadview today, which I think that's Broadview's town slogan. It's a shit show in Broadview. Agents fired tear gas and other chemical irritants at a crowd of about 75 protesters gathered outside the facility on Saturday night. According to the Chicago Tribune, federal officials took 11 people into custody, 4 of whom now face federal charges. One of the people arrested and later released was another journalist, Steve Held. So Steve Held was held. The co-founder of the investigative unit, the investigative outlet Unraveled Press. Held was held and then released from custody just hours before ICE reportedly fired at Rizé. Another reporter from the Chicago Sun-Times was also struck by rubber bullets and tear gassed. It's just like Israel. Don't like the press, we're going to shoot at you. The pattern of law enforcement violence and targeted attacks persisted yesterday, with agents launching chemical agents and firing munitions at members of the press and people assembled to protest, said the National Lawyers Guild of Chicago. Agents used multiple chemical agents, launched kinetic grenades, and shot rubber bullets, mace, and pepper balls against those assembled. One legal observer was shot directly in the face with a projectile. Agents also menaced people by pointing firearms at them, including handguns and a rifle. The NLG said federal agents' actions on Saturday were notably distinct from prior days in that officers went after people who were simply gathered to support the act of protesters. So not even just the protesters, but people who were supporting the protesters. Officers forcibly removed people sheltering from tear gas in vehicles, fired weapons at specific protesters in direct response to their First Amendment protected statements, and snatched protester signs, the group said. They also confiscated tents used for shade, as well as food, water, and first aid supplies, and people's bike helmets and other personal property, putting them in a dumpster in the restricted area. As people tried to leave the protest, NLG said agents blocked them and demanded to illegally search people's bodies and vehicles. Last night, our legal observers witnessed militarized federal agents deploy chemical weapons and fire projectiles at a crowd of people exercising their First Amendment rights, said Amanda Yaruso, a volunteer attorney with the NLG Chicago. The violence was an indiscriminate, unprovoked, and illegal use of force. These unlawful actions by federal agents demonstrate that administration's complete disregard of constitutional standards. And you're like, well, why do people act like that? Why do these ICE agents and these people act like that? Because it's the same thing with cops, right? They don't want cops that are smart, that can figure shit out. They want cops that can toe the line. They want cops that can follow orders, no matter how heinous those orders are. And usually it's either people who were bullied or they were bullies or have some sort of mental deficiencies that allow them to do that. What's up, Zell? Good to see ya. 11demands.org. Okay. Very good. So, yeah. And there's video of ICE agents just standing around. Of course, there's the guy on the bike who's it's like talking shit and then ran off on the bike and they couldn't catch him. It was beautiful. Let's fuck those people. Meanwhile, in Michigan, our neighbor to the east, across the lake, more victims discovered in the Mormon church attack. That's according to authorities there. Emergency crews have discovered 2 more victims in the ruins of a Mormon church set ablaze during Sunday's shooting in Michigan, raising the death toll to 4 parishioners, plus the gunman who was killed in a shootout with police. Grand Blanc Township Police Chief William Renya told reporters that 2 of the victims' bodies had gunshot wounds. Including the suspect, there are 5 deceased persons from this tragic incident, he said, praising first responders who arrived at the church within 30 seconds of the first 911 call. 7 people remain hospitalized in stable condition, while 1 is in critical care. Crews are continuing to comb through the debris of the destroyed church, which Renya described as a total loss due to the fire. He added that some people remain unaccounted for. We are in recovery mode, he said. Investigators revealed that the suspect, identified as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford of Burton, used gasoline as an accelerant to ignite the fire. Sanford was a former Marine sergeant who served in Iraq between 2007 and 2008. According to the Marine Corps, he had received multiple service awards, including the Iraq Campaign Medal and the Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal. Ooh. The ATF also discovered several suspected explosive devices at the site, though it was not immediately clear whether they had been used to start the blaze. According to a special agent, James Deere, Michigan State Police reported receiving additional bomb threats at churches and other locations in the area. Authorities have not disclosed a possible motive. The FBI is leading the investigation and said it is treating the shooting as an act of targeted violence. NBC affiliate WDIV reported a heavy police presence at a residence believed to be Sanford's home. Yeah, very tragic. And we're starting to see more and more of these random attacks. People are starting to snap. You know, maybe they have motives, but I think the things that are driving them is just going fucking crazy. North Carolina mass shooting leaves 3 dead, 6 injured. Authorities in North Carolina confirmed 3 people were killed and 6 others were injured after gunfire erupted Saturday night at a popular waterfront restaurant. The shooting occurred around 9:30 p.m. at the American Fish Company restaurant in the Southport Yacht Basin. According to city officials, shots were fired from a boat towards patrons gathered at the venue. Southport Police Chief Todd Coring said during a press briefing that 6 victims were transported to local hospitals, though their conditions remain unknown. Authorities also confirmed 2 active crime scenes, one in Southport and another in nearby Oak Island. The suspect, who was reportedly seen fleeing toward Oak Island along the intracoastal waterway, was later detained by the U.S. Coast Guard around 10 p.m. after being spotted loading a boat at a public ramp. Police are questioning the individual as a person of interest. Officials stress there is currently no known ongoing threat to the public. The victims' names have not yet been released pending family notifications. And these shootings... And I'm not saying all of these shootings are spurred by this, but a lot of times you have these people. Oh, hello. Sorry, just trying to get my leg up here. That listen to like these people, these pundits, and they get these really crazy ideas in their head from them. And I'm just saying this is just one source of the craziness. Where you're seeing people just being told flat out lies, right? That seems to be like a trend going on with a lot of these podcasters. There's a lot of lying going on to serve their own interests. Meanwhile, in New York, Eric Adams, the current mayor, is on his way out. As Eric Adams drops out of New York City mayor race in face of Trump pressure to stop Mamdani. Yeah, so following pressure to drop out of the mayoral race from the Trump administration, I thought Eric Adams was a Democrat. How is that? Well, he's running as an independent, but he is a... I don't know. From Trump and business leaders, current New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced on Sunday that he would end his bid to seek re-election. Oh, that's just too bad. That's just one less fascist in the race. Adams was running as an independent against former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, also running as an independent, Republican Curtis Sliwa, and frontrunner Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist whose victory in the Democratic primary has spooked moneyed interests and right-wing politicians, including Trumpy himself. Trump and his billionaire donors might be able to determine Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo's actions, but they will not dictate the results of this election, Mamdani said in response to the news. New York deserves better than trading in one disgraced corrupt politician for another. Yeah, I know, right? Well, that's what they do. That's all they do. On November 4th, we are going to turn the page on the politics of big money and small ideas and deliver a government every New Yorker can be proud of, and we'll probably kowtow to Israel just like we do everybody else. Adams' term as mayor was marked by scandal. He was charged with bribery, wire fraud, and soliciting illegal campaign donations from foreign parties by the federal government in 2024, only to have the charges dropped by Trump's Department of Justice this year so that Adams could focus on facilitating Trump's anti-immigrant crackdown. We can't have all this, you doing all this criminal shit and not doing my criminal shit. The incident raised concerns among New Yorkers that Adams was beholden to the president. Despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign, Adams said in a video posted on social media. The constant media speculation about my future and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign. Adams had faced pressure to bow out of the race so that Cuomo would be the only centrist candidate in a bid to hinder Mamdani's pathway to victory. His announcement comes weeks after the news broke that Trump administration officials were weighing offering jobs to Adams and Sliwa in order to boost Cuomo. In his video, Adams did not endorse any other candidate by name but appeared to warn against Mamdani. Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer is to destroy the very system we built over generations. That system's crap. You built crap. That is not change. That is chaos. Instead, I urge leaders to choose leaders not by what they promise, but by what they have delivered. Well, then why the fuck are you running? You haven't delivered shit. Cuomo praised Adams for a decision, saying, even though I'm racist, I believe he is sincere. No, he didn't say that part. He was thinking it. I believe he is sincere in putting the well-being of New York City ahead of personal ambition. Cuomo's not, but I guess he is. We face destructive extremist forces that would devastate our our city through incompetence or ignorance, but it is not too late to stop them. However, it is unclear how much Adams' departure will actually help Cuomo, as he was polling at less than 10%, and as the Associated Press noted, there is no guarantee that enough of his supporters would switch their allegiance to Cuomo to make a difference. Unless they're all corrupt as shit, then they're probably like, yeah, he's just 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Mamdani has run a popular campaign focused on lowering the cost of living in New York City, including proposals such as free buses, city-run grocery stores, and universal childcare. Sounds good, but how does it taste? See, that's all talky talk. Anybody can say that shit. Yeah, let's have some free buses. And then you get into office. Oh, man, no free buses. Sorry. How do they say that in Minnesota? Sorry. We got some tropical developments in the Atlantic, and apparently one of them is pretty deadly, as 2 have been killed in Cuba as Tropical Storm Imelda and Hurricane Umberto threaten Bahamas and Bermuda. I'll show you a map of they're basically doing this. Like this is Imelda going into the Atlantic, and this is. But you'll see that in a second. Authorities in the Bahamas closed most schools yesterday as Tropical Storm Imelda dropped heavy rain in the northern Caribbean, including over Cuba, where 2 people died as a result of the storm. The storm was located about 165 miles north of Great Abaco Island of the Bahamas, which is still recovering from Hurricane Dorian after it slammed into parts of the Bahamas as a devastating Cat 5 back in 2019. Imelda had maximum sustained winds of 70 miles per hour and was moving northeast at 7 miles per hour. It was forecast to become a hurricane on Tuesday morning and spin out to open ocean, according to the National Hurricane Center in Miami. A tropical storm warning that had been in effect for parts of the extreme northwestern Bahamas, including Great Abaco, Great Bahama Island, and the surrounding Keys, was lifted early today. Power outages were reported in some areas, with authorities closing government offices on affected islands and issuing mandatory evacuation orders for some islands over the weekend. Cuban Prime Minister Manuel Marrero said late Monday that 2 people died after Imelda impacted eastern Cuba. On his Twitter account, Marrero said the 2 people died in Santiago de Cuba province, but he didn't give any details. Earlier, state media reported that 60-year-old Luis Mario Perez Coeterio had died in Santiago de Cuba following landslides in that area. In Santiago de Cuba, flooding and landslides cut off 17 communities, according to the official newspaper Granma. Granma? Really? More than 24,000 people live in those communities. In Guantanamo, another impacted province, more than 1,800 people have been evacuated, according to reports from the state-run Caribe television channel. Imelda was expected to drop 4 to 8 inches of rain across the northwest Bahamas through today and 2 to 4 inches across eastern Cuba. Meanwhile, Hurricane Umberto, which weakened further to a Category 2 storm on Tuesday, churned in open waters, which forecasters had said would cause Imelda to abruptly turn to the northeast away from the southeastern United States coast. No, thank you. This is really what's going to be saving the U.S. from really seeing catastrophic rainfall, said Alex De Silva, lead hurricane expert for AccuWeather, a private U.S. weather forecasting company. De Silva said the two storms would draw closer and start rotating counterclockwise around each other in what's known as the Fujiwara effect. The Fujiwara effect is also what is also one of my sex moves. And it's has to do with Fuji cameras. I'm sorry you had to hear that. It's a very rare phenomenon overall. Overall in the Atlantic Basin, he said, Umberto had maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour. It was located about 275 miles west of Bermuda, moving north-northwest at 17 miles per hour. No coastal watches or warnings were in effect. This is going to be no threat to the U.S., Silva says. Don't say that. Moisture from Imelda was expected to move up the Carolinas with heavy rain forecast through Tuesday morning. The heaviest rains will be limited to the coastline from Charleston to South Carolina to Wilmington in North Carolina. From Charleston in South Carolina to Wilmington in North Carolina, while Charlotte and Raleigh might receive only 1 to 2 inches of rain, he said. The Carolinas might see wind gusts of 40 miles per hour, but only along the coastline, De Silva said, as he warned of dangerous surf and heavy rip currents all week. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster said authorities were pre-positioning search and rescue crews over the weekend. In North Carolina, Governor Josh Stein declared a state of emergency even before Imelda formed, while authorities on Tybee Island off the coast of Georgia handed out free sandbags to residents. Free sandbags? I want one. Free sandbags. Even though Imelda was not making landfall in Florida, its impact was still felt at the Loggerhead Marine Life Center in Juno Beach. Crews found a couple of turtle hatchlings that rough surf had tossed ashore. We actually had 2 washbacks come in over the weekend, said Justin Peral, the center's vice president of research. We may get more as the day goes along. He said typically beachgoers will see a hatchling resting in the seaweed and call the center for help. Farther south in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Carl Alexander exercised at the beach on Monday. He said he was grateful the storm was not heading towards South Florida, but that he would pray for those in the Bahamas. So authorities in Bermuda hope neither of the 2 storms would be a direct hit later in the week, though they were forecast to at least come close, with Imelda possibly passing within 15 miles as the season's soon-to-be 4th hurricane, De Silva said. It's going to be a double whammy for Bermuda. Umberto first and Imelda following close behind, De Silva said. Michael Weeks, Bermuda's national security minister, urged residents to prepare, warning that there have been some near misses this season regarding severe storms. Umberto is a dangerous storm, and with another system developing to our south, every household in Bermuda should take the necessary steps to be prepared, he said. Flights to and from the islands in the Bahamas were canceled, with airports expected to reopen after weather conditions improve. So let's take a look at where those storms are at now. So this is from zoom.earth. This is a really good website that shows you all this, where all these storms are. So this is Imelda right here. Imelda is currently at a Cat 1, 80 miles per hour, and it is heading northeast, right, towards Bermuda. And here, Umberto, also a Cat 1 at 80 miles per hour. It's to the west now, but most of the feeder bands are going to be over here on the east side. So when you see a hurricane like this, it's usually going counterclockwise like this, and the majority of your powerful winds and rain are going to be over here on this side. So right now, Bermuda's just getting hammered. Fortunately, not by high winds, but it is an island nation. And then you have Imelda here, which is set to get here possibly as a Cat 2 tomorrow night. So people in Bermuda, man, the Bermuda Triangle is unlucky anyway. And boy, and if these two hurricanes get together, they may just end up rotating around each other and hopefully just churning out in the Atlantic where it's safe. But, I remember back in 1986, Hurricane Elena was coming towards the Gulf Coast, and my dad was sick of hurricanes. So he says, fuck it, we're going to get in the car, we're going to go to Memphis, and we're going to ride it out. So we get in the car, and we're in South Mississippi. Of course, Memphis is right across the border on the north side of the state of Mississippi. And he said, we'll take your mom to Graceland so she can see the Elvis's house, and because she loved Elvis. And she just said, fuck it, we'll just make it a trip. And we went up there, we did the thing, we saw the house. Pretty cool house. He has his own bowling alley. That's pretty cool. Or he did. And while we were up in Memphis, Elena had moved, was heading out towards the Atlantic. And Dad's like, okay, I guess that's cool. So we got in the car, came all the way back down, cross state, get back to South Mississippi, and that motherfucker just turned around and came back and went right up the gut, the eye of the storm. I could probably show you here. So Elena was like over here somewhere, was like crossing Florida or something. And then we're like, fuck it, we're going to come back down here. And then it went boop, right up the gut. So fortunately, we didn't have a hell of a lot of damage or anything like that. But you don't play around with those storms. Get the hell out of Dodge. Stay out of Dodge, especially after Katrina. Katrina was the one that scared the shit out of everybody down there. So don't play with storms, folks. Get out, find a safe place. You're more valuable than your assets are. So you can go away. So that's it for the news. We got a small propaganda watch today, relatively speaking. And guess what? Bibi said, sorry, Qatari, for bombing you. Oopsie sauce.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media are true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, so Netanyahu apologizes to Qatari Prime Minister for assassination attempt in Doha during the Trump-mediated call. We're sorry. Trump hosted a call between the leaders of two American Middle East allies yesterday. During the call, Bibi apologized to Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman for an Israeli attack on Hamas leadership in Qatar. A White House readout of the call says the president expressed his desire to put Israeli-Qatar relations on a positive track after bombing the shit out of it. After years of mutual grievances and miscommunications. Oops, I dropped the bomb on you. I'm sorry, baby. Those are Gap Band rules. Bibi expressed his deep regret that Israel's missile strike against Hamas targets in Qatar unintentionally killed a Qatari serviceman, it adds. He further expressed regret that in targeting Hamas leadership during hostage negotiations, Israel violated Qatari sovereignty and affirmed that Israel will not conduct such an attack again in the future. Wink, 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 wink. I'm hurting my eye winking so hard. Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the call was, quote, part of U.S. efforts to address the repercussions of the Israeli aggression that targeted a residential neighborhood in Doha City, which included housing for the Hamas negotiating delegation, resulting in a blatant violation of the sovereignty of the state of Qatar. For his part, Bibi apologized during the call for the attack, said, "Oopsie sauce, my bad dog." He didn't say that, but might as well. During the call for the attack and the violation of Qatari sovereignty, which resulted in the martyrdom of Qatari citizen Badr al-Dassari, pledging not to repeat any targeting of Qatari territory in the future, the statement from Doha said. Bad baby. Bad baby. You were bad. I'm sorry. I said I'm sorry. The account of the phone call from Tel Aviv said Netanyahu expressed regret that the strike killed a Qatari citizen. Mr. Prime Minister, I want you to know that Israel regrets that one of your citizens was killed in our strike. I want to assure you that Israel was targeting Hamas, not Qataris. They all look alike. Wait, what? Sorry. The Prime Minister posted on Twitter, I also want to assure you that Israel has no plan to violate your sovereignty again in the future. There's no plan, but no plan now. I've made that commitment to the president, he continues. I know your leadership has grievances against Israel, and Israel has grievances against Qatar, from support for the Muslim Brotherhood to how Israel is portrayed on Al Jazeera to support for anti-Israel sentiment on college campuses. What the fuck? What's that have to do with you killing one of their citizens, stupid? On September 9th, Israel fired 10 missiles at a building in Doha in an attempt to assassinate the group's leadership. Top members of Hamas were meeting to discuss a ceasefire proposal made by Trump. While Hamas leaders survived the attack, 6 people were killed. Qatar slammed Israel for the attack and said it killed the chances of Hamas and Tel Aviv reaching a deal to release the Israeli hostages held in Gaza. And maybe that was part of the plan all along, because you know what? This motherfucker don't care about no hostages. No, he don't. He don't give a fuck about no hostages. He ain't about that life, as the kids say. So meanwhile, defying government, Britain's Labour members vote to accept genocide is taking place in Gaza. Wow. They somehow grew balls. Tiny ones, but balls nonetheless. Yeah. Oops, upside your head. Oops, upside your head. I know what's up. Britain's ruling Labour Party on Monday passed a motion declaring that the UN has concluded Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, a decision that puts the party on a collision course with its leadership. Anadolu reports at a party conference in Liverpool. Yeah, it was 50 years ago today. I don't know where this delegates passed the Peace in the Middle East 2 Electric Boogaloo motion, which says the UN Commission of Inquiry found that Israeli authorities and Israeli security forces have committed the crime of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. The motion commits a future Labour government to a series of hardline measures, including using all means reasonably available to prevent the commission of genocide in Gaza, suspending arms trade with Israel, and freezing the UK-Israel trade and partnership agreement. The vibration of Lenny from A Mice Event. And I will love him and hug him and pet him. Yeah, like that thing on Bugs Bunny. Okay. So the motion was proposed by Unison, one of the country's biggest trade unions. In contrast, Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his cabinet ministers have refused to declare that a genocide is taking place in Gaza, insisting that there's Israeli cock in their ass. I'm sorry, insisting the issue is a matter for the courts. After the UN Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestine Territory published its report, the UK government said its position remained that it, quote, has not concluded that Israel is acting with that genocidal intent. That's like the fucking Pope, the Chicago Pope guy. He's like, I don't know if it's a genocide. Jesus, is it a genocide? Can you tell me, please? Dumbass people. The September 16th report said there were reasonable grounds to find that 4 of the 5 acts of genocide defined under international law have been committed since October 2023. The Israeli army has killed over 66,000 Palestinians. Like we said, that's a very, very low estimate. In a landmark opinion last July, the International Court of Justice declared Israel's occupation of Palestinian territory illegal and called for the evacuation of all settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. So, Labor members have said maybe that's just part of the game too. It's like you got one side saying, "Oh, well, yes, it's a genocide. We need to stop this." So, and then leadership's like, "Well, it's not a genocide. I don't know what you're talking about. Sip, sip, sip. I love tea." Satan Yahoo. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It just, I don't know. I like to think that people actually have a conscience and are coming around to seeing that this is a genocide. But at the same time, people play all these fucking political games, especially here in the United States. And why should it be any different in the UK, right? Whoa, that was interesting. So we mentioned earlier about Tony Blair's somehow bizarre involvement in Gaza once everything's gone to shit, which it already has, but once it really is just gone, I guess. So this is a breakdown of Tony Blair's bizarre proposal to run Gaza. You really want this fucking creature, this fucking lizard guy to run anything? I wouldn't let this guy run a lemonade stand if he was giving this shit away for free. Look at this shit, man. He just looks... It looks like his human mask is not doing too well. Too many tea and crumpets. An unlikely answer has been found for who should lead the process of running Gaza after Israel's genocidal war, and it's Tony Blair. It was revealed last week that the former British Prime Minister, a controversial figure in the Middle East, to say the least, since his involvement in the Iraq War, was being considered to lead a transitional authority in the enclave. Haaretz has now published a leaked draft plan of what Gaza would look like under Blair's initiative. The plan reveals a hierarchy in which an international board of billionaires and business people sit at the top, but of course, while highly vetted and neutral Palestinian administrators are at the bottom. It sets out a 3-year plan budgeted at $90 million the first year, $134 million in the second, and $164 million in the third. These are solely management expenses and don't include reconstruction or aid. So that's all paychecks. The administration would work closely with Israel, Egypt, and the U.S., and according to Israeli sources cited by Haaretz, has the backing of the White House because... of course they do. Middle East Eye breaks down key highlights from the 21-page leaked document. So Gaza International Transitional Authority, or GITA, is the name given to the new institution which will administer the Palestinian enclave. According to the draft, GITA will be run by an international board which has supreme political and legal authority for Gaza during the transitional period. Supreme. The board will be in charge of all appointments and supervise every component of the authority. It will be made up of between 7 and 10 members, including a chair. You mean like an actual, like, instead of a person, they're going to have like a chair sitting there? No, I know that's not what that means. The board will include a senior UN official with Sigrid Kaag, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process, cited as an example. It would also include leading international figures with executive and financial expertise. Here we go. 3 names are cited as potential candidates. Mark Rowan, a billionaire who owns one of America's largest private equity firms. Naguib Sawiris, an Egyptian billionaire in the telecommunications and tech sector. And Ari Lightstone, chief executive of the Abraham Accords Peace Institute. Lightstone was a senior advisor to David Friedman, a staunch defender of Israel's illegal settlement movement when he was U.S. ambassador to Israel between 2017 and 2021 under Trump's administration, the first one. According to Haaretz, he was also deeply involved in the creation of the highly controversial Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the old GHF, the ones that shoot aid workers or people seeking aid, that is. Not every single board member will be a billionaire or have links to Israel or America. No. You got to have your one token, I guess. There will be at least one qualified Palestinian representative, potentially coming from the business or security sector. It wasn't made clear what qualified means exactly. What does qualified mean? What does qualified mean? And finally, the document said that the board would have a strong representation of Muslim members to ensure regional legitimacy and cultural credibility, also known as tokens. These Muslim figures would ideally have the political support of their countries, but also long-standing business credibility. Members of the board would be nominated by contributing states and confirmed through a process coordinated by the UN. The board would report to the UN Security Council, which would ultimately grant it authority to carry out its functions. And guess who else is on the UN Security Council? The USA! The Security Council currently includes non-permanent members that have been highly critical of Israel's genocide in Gaza, such as Algeria, Pakistan, and Slovenia, in addition to permanent members, Russia and China. It would be interesting to see if these countries would approve a transitional government in Gaza run mostly by non-Palestinian billionaires and business figures. Yeah, I don't think that's going to fly. Various media outlets have reported that Blair is being touted to be the chair of the Transitional Authority, though his name is not mentioned in the draft. Public-private partnerships to run government projects, one of Blair's hallmark policies as Prime Minister of the UK, is mentioned in the document. According to the draft plan, the chairman will serve as the senior political executive, principal spokesperson, and strategic coordinator for the entire Transitional Authority. They would be appointed through international consensus and endorsement by the UN Security Council. There is no mention of Palestinian consensus in choosing them. Of course not, because it's only their house. If Blair is indeed the proposed chairman, he may have his work cut out gaining international consensus for his appointment. His handling of the Iraq War was premier of the UK, as well as his dealings with a string of autocrats has left him deeply unpopular across the globe. The chair will represent Gita in all diplomatic, donor, and intergovernmental forums. They will also lead strategic security diplomacy with other actors, including Israel, Egypt, and the U.S. The document notes that initially, Gita's senior officials won't even be in Gaza. In the first year, they'll be based in coordination cells such as El Arish in Egypt's Sinai and remote policy hubs such as Cairo and Amman. There would be partial deployment into Gaza by the second year before full operationalization into the enclave in the third year. An operational chart at the end of the document lays out the hierarchical structure of Gita, with the board and chairman at the top. The security body, the International Security Force, that's the ISF we was telling you about, is on the same row as the board and chairman and appears to be outside of the hierarchy. This body will man crossings into Gaza, naval approaches, and perimeter zones in coordination with Egypt and Israel. So there's your flow chart there of Gita and all the bullshit that goes along with it. It will also run targeted operations to prevent resurgence of armed groups. There is no mention of Hamas in the entire document. Directly underneath the board and the chairman will be a number of bodies and structures, none of which appear to be directly Palestinian run, including an investment and economic development authority and an executive secretariat. The latter will coordinate daily operations, including digital creating systems to identify Palestinians in Gaza and digital platforms for licensing and permits. Below that layer are several officials overseeing humanitarian work, reconstruction, legislative and legal issues, and security, as well as a coordinator with the Palestinian Authority, which will be, in essence, pretty toothless. It doesn't really have any teeth now. It is below this at the very bottom of the chart where we see named Palestinian involvement, the Palestinian Executive Authority, or the PEA. Despite the name, the P at the bottom of the hierarchy has little to no independent authority. It is separate from the PA, because it has an E in it. No, that's what. Which administers parts of the occupied West Bank. It would be made up of technocratic ministries that administer health, education, water supply and energy, labor market policies, housing, local criminal justice and welfare, among a few other policy areas. It would be headed up by a Palestinian chief executive officer appointed by the International Board. Basically a puppet. It's notable that the language used for all roles throughout the document, like board, chairman, and CEO, reflects a business structure rather than a country or territory. Well, yeah, look at the fuckers that's dealing with this. The Palestinian CEO will lead the process of identifying directors, not ministers, to head up the various departments like health, education, infrastructure, and planning. Directors, yeah, they're turning Gaza into a corporation is basically what they're doing. The directors will need to meet standards of technical competence, integrity, and neutrality. The International Board of Billionaires and Business People will have the final say on appointments. Of course they do. To safeguard institutional legitimacy and independence. Yeah, safety. Safeguard. All department heads are subject to performance review and can be dismissed or replaced in accordance with transitional governance procedures, the document notes. An Israeli source told Haaretz that the Palestinian Executive Authority, or P, would be completely subordinate to the board and have no independent authority. As such, it would be far weaker than the technocratic administration set out in a joint Arab plan led by Egypt earlier this year. Below the Palestinian Executive Authority are a number of municipal roles related to the running of local public services and utilities. All mayors and senior municipal administrators are nominated by the P and formally appointed by the GIDA International Board, the plan states. Once again, it also spelled out that any Palestinian appointees to such roles must meet strict standards of political neutrality. It is not spelled out whether the likes of Aria Lightstone, the pro-Israel former advisor named in the document as a potential board member, is considered politically neutral. There are various judicial and legal arms to the authority too. That includes a legislative and legal supervisor who, among other things, would ensure that the transitional authority was operating in a manner consistent with international law. Given how closely this authority states that it will work with Israel, which has been breaching international law in the West Bank and Gaza for over 7 decades, it will have its work cut out. There will also be a judicial board to oversee due process, legal compliance, and justice sector reforms. The board will be chaired by a reputable Arab jurist, preferably Palestinian. Interestingly, one of its roles will include legally protecting the right to return for any Palestinian in Gaza who decides to voluntarily leave their home. GIDA does not facilitate or endorse population relocation, but ensures that all voluntary movement is conducted in accordance with international law and rights protections, the plan states. Palestinians will likely be skeptical of any such promises, particularly from an authority that will have Israeli backing, of course. During the Nakba in 1948, when 750,000 Palestinians were forced from their homes in what is now Israel, many thought they would be gone for just days. Over 77 years later, they still have not been allowed to return. The draft plan mentions that GIDA will work in close consultation with the Palestinian Authority with a view to eventually handing the management over to it. It doesn't set out a timetable for when this will happen. Of course it doesn't, because this is all bullshit. The P, the Palestinian Executive Order or Authority that has zero power and will probably be stocked with puppets. What's up, Mystery? Good to see you, dear. Hope you're having a great day today. So yeah, that's all this shit is just smoke and mirrors. And then you're going to have that fucking British clown in there. Yeah, they're not serious about any of that shit. And I'm pretty sure the Palestinians know that too. So George Galloway apparently was detained as he speaks out about UK detention upon return from Russia. There he is speaking into the microphone for all of you to see. Yes, he's right there. Politician George Galloway has accused UK counterterrorism officers of interrogating him and his wife about their political views and trying to obtain confidential information. The pair were detained at Gatwick Airport on Saturday after returning from Russia. Colombia ending trade with Israel and free trade with the U.S. This was in response to Colombian President Gustavo Petro having his visa revoked from speaking at a Palestine demonstration. Oh, Colombia, very good. Well, I mean, not good, but I mean, good for Colombia. Saying, fuck you. The 71-year-old Workers' Party of Britain leader says he was questioned for around 4 hours, and his wife Putri Gayatri Pertiwi for about 5. I butchered her name. I'm sorry about that. I'd be butchering names left and right. They were released without charges after their phones and laptops were confiscated. Oh, how about that? That's not fascist, is it? No, wait, I think that is. In a post on the tweeters yesterday, Galloway described the experience as ugly and said police put politically loaded questions to both of them. Why is your fingernail painted in the Palestinian colors? What's your attitude to the conflict in Gaza? Why do you admire Mr. Lavrov? Why are you so friendly to China? He recalled being asked. That's a fun voice, but it takes a lot out of you. He has a nice hat, too. He suggested the real motive behind the detention was to gain access to our communications, to confiscate phones, to confiscate laptops, and to enter and burgle and see what they can do with our private communications. The Metropolitan Police, the Met, have confirmed that counterterrorism officers at Gatwick Airport stopped a man in his 70s and a woman in her 40s under the Terrorism Act on Saturday, adding that neither of them were arrested and they were allowed on their way. But they were detained for what? Galloway has rejected the official explanation, saying no evidence of terrorism was presented during questioning. He said officers even asked him to provide a passport for a phone that was not his. The politician has announced plans to pursue legal action against the Met with his lawyer to address a press conference in Belfast. A veteran British politician and former RT show host, Galloway was an MP for nearly 30 years. He launched the Workers' Party in 2019, and with a social conservative platform, he won the 2024 Rochdale election. Rochdale, you heard. Just 5 months later, he lost his seat to Labor in the general election, which he had been a member of for decades before the early 2000s. So George Galloway stopped. He's not the only one that what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. The other kid that's in England right now, he got detained too. He got like arrested or something, or he definitely got detained. So they're doing this with people that are speaking out, and they're doing this to people who are speaking out, but also people who are speaking out who also have reach. That's another big deal too. The amount of people that you're able to reach. If you're able to reach a hell of a lot of people, they're going to come after you. So, Richard Medhurst, thanks, Steve. Yeah, detained, kidnapped, same thing. Richie Medhurst. I never traveled, but I don't understand why you would travel with a laptop or even a phone. I guess to watch movies on the plane if you don't want to. You don't want to pay for like their crazy ass movie prices on there, and they usually have some shitty movie on there. But you know what? The phone does. If I'm going to travel overseas, I'm going to get me a burner phone for that shit, I would think. Because, it's probably going to get confiscated, especially if you're somebody that speaks out as much as these people do. So finally, we go down to Florida. And Florida has, their crazy fucking shit. Whoa there, Billy. You need to chill out. So Florida pushes bill to rename West Bank as Judea and Samaria. All the problems in the world, people starving, people homeless, no jobs, there's everything crazy. And this is what Florida's wasting their fucking time on. A new legislative push in Florida aims to formally prohibit the term West Bank in official state documents and replace it with Judea and Samaria terminology favored by the Israeli occupation to describe the occupied Palestinian territory. According to the Israeli newspaper Israel Hayom, the bill was introduced by State Representative Chase Tremont following a recent visit to the area referred to by the occupation as Samaria, the northern part of the occupied West Bank. Israel Hayom said the bill is expected to pass with majority support in the Florida state legislature. Described as historic, the bill coincides with the arrival of a delegation of 8 local council heads from the Yesha Council into the U.S. The Yesha Council is an umbrella organization and municipal councils of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, all of which are illegal. Yeah, definitely a burner phone. Something that you know is probably going to get taken away from you. So get something cheap, but still works. The group is reportedly on an urgent mission to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, currently in the U.S., and pressure him to support this effort. The move comes after Trumpy recently stated he would not permit the annexation of the West Bank. Earlier in January, Yedioth Arana reported that Representative Claudia Tenney, Republican out of New York, stated that Trump had pledged his support for federal legislation aimed at renaming the West Bank, with Tenney stating that Trump called it a very priority task for his administration. This comes although Trump has declared a few days ago that he will not allow the Israeli occupation to annex the occupied West Bank, rebuffing calls from far-right Israeli politicians who seek full sovereignty over the territory. Why the fuck do you give a shit about what an area is called in another country? Why? Why is that a top priority to you and not the people of your own fucking state? Not unbelievable because it's Florida, because Florida's, I think Florida knows they're going to be underwater probably in the next 50 years, so they're just trying to be as crazy as possible. Did you know it was the Galloway family who sold their water rights? Okay. Did not know that. Yeah, history is fascinating for sure. So yeah, that's it for the old propaganda watch, I believe. What else we got here? Coming up later today, probably in about an hour and a half, our buddy Kevin is going to. Our buddy Kevin's going to be on the air probably around 3 p.m. Eastern. I think that's how that works. Noon on the West Coast. Also, he lost his home in the LA fires. And so if you can help him out, his GoFundMe is in the description. The link for that is down below. And also for our buddy Chanda, her GoFundMe is down there. Her cancer has returned. And our buddy Cowboy Kitty, his sister-in-law, is currently being held by ICE for some bullshit reasons. I know times are tough. If you got the cash, if you could donate to one of those 3, they're very worthy causes to donate to. If not, at least could you share out the links? And I'm sure they would appreciate that as well. That's Galloway alleged to have sided with the Crown rather than their native Scotland. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Finally today, and speaking of dumb shit, of course I had to put this at the end because usually this is the happy, fun portion of the show. The kicker, as we called it. Yes, indeed. Keep fighting, Chanda. She's a sweetheart, so. And just because it's come back doesn't mean that it's a done deal for her, obviously. But she could definitely use your help. So, one of the most pressing matters in the United States today is finding out what happened to Amelia Earhart. I mean, fuck homelessness and people starving. Let's find out where the fuck happened to that chick. So, Trump orders release of government records on aviator Amelia Earhart. All right. Trumpy ordered the declassification. Why is it classified? Anywhere. He ordered the declassification release on Friday of any government records about Amelia Earhart, the famed American aviator who vanished over the Pacific almost 90 years ago. Earhart went missing while on a pioneering round-the-world flight with navigator Fred Noonan, and her disappearance is one of the most tantalizing mysteries in aviation lore. Lore it is. I've been asked by many people about the life and times of Amelia Earhart, Trump said in a post on Truth Social. Her disappearance almost 90 years ago has captivated millions. I'm ordering my administration to declassify and release all government records related to Amelia Earhart and her final trip and everything else about her, he said. Earhart's disappearance has fascinated historians for decades and spawned books, movies, and theories galore. The prevailing belief is that Earhart, 39, and Noonan, 44, ran out of fuel and ditched their twin-engine Lockheed Electra in the Pacific near Howland Island while on one of the final legs of their epic journey. Earhart, who won fame in 1932 as the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, took off on May 20th, 1937 from Oakland, California, hoping to become the first woman to fly around the world. She and Noonan vanished on July 2nd, 1937, after taking off from Lae, Papua New Guinea, on a challenging 2,500-mile stretch flight to refuel on Howland Island, a speck of a U.S. territory between Australia and Hawaii. They never made it. I think they stopped off at Cracker Barrel and had a delicious meal, and they said, fuck this going around the world. Yeah, I know. They say Epstein, here's Earhart. Well, they both begin with E, so you can see the confusion there, guys. Yeah, she was much cuter than the statue. I know they already solved this case, so yeah, that's it. I've seen the memes too. Like, yeah, that's all cute. Where's the files? Where's the Epstein files? Oh, they'll just try to evade everything, won't they? Well, that's all the bad news you get for today. Sorry, folks, there isn't any more that I'm willing to provide. But remember, tomorrow we begin the maiden voyage of the Undercurrent. Miss Lainey Peterson and myself will be providing, we'll have news stories for you, kind of up-to-date news stories, but we'll also have more in-depth articles to go over. And like we said, we want to have news you can use, news that's information that you can tangibly use to help your lives or maybe the lives of other people. And you know, I'm really hoping if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, it's the Undercurrent, the number 4 and YOU. So the Undercurrent for you. We're on the YouTubes and we're getting other places too. We have our Rumble channel too. If you want to become a subscriber there, everything's free. You know, we just want to provide you this information. Donation links and stuff for that show we'll probably work on here pretty soon if you want to contribute to those shows. If you want to contribute to this show, you're more than happy to do so, and we would be very appreciative if you could. All the links down below. If you want to become a Patreon member, you get your name up in lights at the beginning of the show, and we really do appreciate it. But if you can't donate any money, like I said, if you can share out the links, that helps out a great deal. And you know, we're trying to get this show out here. We're trying to get all these shows that we're doing and that our friends over here that we promote are doing as well. You know, I think in this space there's a lot of personalities and not enough progress for people, and I think that's what Lainey and I are trying to change with that, and have collaborations with other creators in this space who are trying to do the same thing. So thank you guys. Thanks, Wesley. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of y'all for supporting this show. I appreciate you. I hope it's doing you some good. I know it's probably depressing at times, but, you know, a lot of times you don't really have time to aggregate these stories for yourself, so I'm more than happy to do that for you. So come see us tomorrow for The Undercurrent. Like I said, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time. This show will be back Friday at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Specific time on YouTube, Rumble, and the Book of Faces. I'm Uncle Warren. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.
This is City Alpha 5. Woo!